everybody, I am Tammy. I'm the Siberian Wind. I'm glad you are here. This is the episode 4 for Cut and Chiseled. So Cut and Chiseled is a fat quarter friendly project. Within about an hour of having this video complete, I will have a PDF link that you can find in the description box below this video. And you can also find it on the description box of all of the other videos in this series. So you will have 4 videos in the series, all of them linked to this project. My viewers selected that they wanted a fat quarter friendly project, and so that's what we are doing. So I'm going to give you guys a tour real quick of the quilt. That way you guys can see kind of what we've been putting together. The quilt did come out much larger than I originally anticipated. I originally anticipated this quilt was going to be 60 inches by 69 inches. It is 63.5 by 90. So this is almost a twin size quilt, or it's thereabouts. Alright, so let me grab this and I'm going to transition it over for you guys. So this is Cut and Chiseled. So each one of these is a different focus fabric. All of the background fabrics are the same. And so there's actually 4 rows. You can't see the last one. It's like way back here behind everything. But so you've got a rotating little chick format that is, or swirl, or whatever you want to call it, that is in between each of the format, or each of the chisel sets. So this is the layout of the quilt. Okay, so what today is, let me get you guys back over to my main camera. What today is we are going to go over what to do with the scrap pieces. So in the cutting instructions, I said if you have scraps or if you have pieces left over. Andrea, welcome. Glad you are here. Thank you. She says here, just not chatting. No problem, Andrea. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So when you cut your fat quarters for this project, you ended up with little cut-off strips. And the only instructions I gave you was to make sure that your strips were level. So it doesn't matter how wide your strips are, but just that they are level. So I'm going to bring you guys down to my machine and I'll show you some of my strips. And let me actually turn my extra light off so I'm not blinding you guys. Alright, so I'm going to show you my big strips first. And these are 18 inches approximately long. Okay, so these are the full length of the fat quarter. But as you can see, they are different sizes. So part of that comes down to what size your fat quarter actually was. If your fat quarter was 18 by 20, 18 by 22, you know, whatever size it came out to be, that is what determines what size your strip is. And there's a lot of things that you could do with all of these. Some of these are over 2.5 inches long or wide. So you could cut these to be into your 2.5 inch strip bin. For your scraps, you could cut this to do jelly roll. That's what I think I'm going to do for my ones that came off of the table topper that I did. But this strip, for example, is not that wide. Okay, so I do have some that are fairly small. This, I believe, was 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches, something like that. So the only thing that I've done, these are my focus fabric strips. The only thing I've done is made sure that they are the same width the whole length down. And that just makes my job here a lot easier. So I did the same with my background strips. So as you can see here, I've got this white. It's got silver dots on it. And they may not show up very well in camera for being sparkly, but they are sparkly. Okay, so again, same thing that I did with the other strips. All I did was make sure that they were level all the way across the strip. So these are also about 18 inches long. Michelle's Crafts and More is saying hi, Tammy and Andrea. Hi, Michelle. Glad you are here. Thank you for joining the chat. Glad to have you. All right, so in cutting all of this, there was a little bit of extra scrap, okay? And these are bigger than just a couple threads. So what I did is all of my background pieces are cut to the same width. So all of these are 1.25 inches wide, but they're varying lengths. They should be about 3.5 inches long, but they could be a little bit longer. They could be, any number of lengths. But these are the cutoffs. They should all be 3.5, but they're the cutoffs from cutting your rectangles. Joy T is here. She says, "Hi Tammy, relaxing my back while watching, so may not chat much." Hi all. No worries, Joy T. Glad you are here. And I want to thank you guys for being patient with me. I was supposed to be doing this video yesterday on Friday. However, I had an emergency come up and I had to be available to answer the phone and make a few phone calls. There's family back home that was having emergencies, so I needed to be available to be on the phone. So it was not easy to just be on the live and on the phone at the same time. So I didn't want to interrupt you guys, so we just decided to take a pause. But okay, so all of these I cut the same width. If you have different widths from your 3.5 inch strips, when you cut your 5.5 inch by 3.5 inch rectangles, then your strips may be different widths. It doesn't matter as long as you pair them in pairs of 2. So for example, from this print, this one has the orangey looking flowers. All you need to do is make sure that these are the same width. So this one, I don't know what width I cut this at, but these are the same width. And then this fabric is a different fabric, but I also had it left over, and these are from cutting, looks like the 6-inch squares. And I don't know what width they are, but I cut them identical. And so all your focus fabrics, that's what you're going to want to do. You want to go through your focus fabrics, the short cutoffs that you have, and just make sure that they are the same width, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is I am going to stitch the ones that are the same width. I'm going to stitch those together to make sure that we have some matched pairs, and these are going to become longer strips. Don is in the chat. He says, "Hello everyone." Hello Don, glad you are here. Alright, so I'm just going to chain piece these together. I did not cut all of my focus fabric scraps, the small scraps like this, but I cut enough so that you guys could see what I was doing with them. And we are going to sew the background, some of the background strips as well, the short background strips. You can sew as many of those as you want. You can sew as few of them as you want. I know, especially once they get down to being these smaller sizes. I mean, these, again, I cut 1.25. So once they get down to being those smaller sizes, I know it can be hard to manage for some people, because sewing smaller is not always sewing easier. So you just want to pair up what you can, what you feel like handling, what you don't, just put to your scrap bin or for another day or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to make something to go on the back of the quilt. And I do have more of this white with the silver sparkles. That is going to be my backing fabric for this quilt if I have enough. I believe I should, but I haven't gone back and measured it. I've kind of been distracted a little bit, I will admit. So I have not measured it, so I'm not 100% sure. Alright, so that's all of those I'm going to work on for right now. I'm not going to do all of them, but you can. Especially if you're already sitting there and you've already got everything trimmed. I did not trim all of mine like I should have at the beginning. So I don't have as many ready as I should have. So this is a case of do as Tammy says, not as Tammy does. Beverly is saying hi Tammy and everyone with a wave. Thank you Beverly, glad you are here. Alright, so I'm also going to press the seams open. And I know you guys can't see my ironing board clearly. Well, actually you guys can't see it at all. But yeah, I'm just going to press these seams open. That way we don't have any extra bulk in the quilt. So with the fact that the quilt came out a different size than what I originally mathed and what I had originally come up with, it took a little bit of a detour on my PDF that I was putting together, so you guys have a printout of the instructions. So that's why it's a little delayed. I am expecting to have that done within an hour of the video, or the hour of, when we get this done. Because I do have to do a little bit of math and refigure that for you guys, because that may mean that the king size isn't quite the same size as what I originally anticipated. So that's what I've got to refigure and make sure that I'm not telling you guys wrong on how many fat quarters you need in order to make a king size quilt. So yeah, that's the main delay at the moment. I see a lot of people jumping into the chat. Thank you guys for being here. I know this was kind of not on the original schedule, so thank you for being patient with me and working with me. I appreciate it ever so much. So I do already have plans for the next quilt. For the next tutorial quilt that you guys are going to get the pattern for free. And we are going to do that one in July. So we're going to give me a month-long break in June, and then we're going to pick that up in July. So that way, if you guys are enjoying the tutorial content, just know that every couple of months or so, there will be a tutorial. And some blocks you might have recognized, some blocks you might not. Some may just be, let's put some scraps together and get rid of some stash. And some may be something significantly different. So it just depends on what all is going on. I do already know, let's see, June, July, I already know what is going to be getting done in September as a tutorial quilt. So I already know September's, and I've just got to work on July's. So you guys will have tutorials coming up, I promise. All right, so these are the ones that I stitched together in no particular order, okay? So these I'm going to stitch together. I'm actually going to stitch the background fabrics together, and I'm going to stitch background fabrics together. I'm going to stitch the focus fabrics together in their own piles. So I'm not going to mix and match the fabrics. You can, but it won't really lead to the effect that I'm looking for and that I'm going to show you. So I know these are small strips, so I know that's a challenge for some people. So if these are too small for you, feel free to skip this. I get it. But if you are wanting to use up every last scrap from those fat quarters, this is the way that I am choosing to do it. And I think you guys will like the idea and like the outcome of what's going to happen. Alright, so I stitched those together in pairs of 2. And I'm actually going to come over and I'm going to join them together. So it is pairs of 4 for this piece. Just because I don't have a whole lot of this. I mean, I've got more, but I haven't stitched more of it. So I just want to be able to show you guys what we're going to do. And this will be plenty to do that. So literally all I want to have go to waste in this entire quilt, you are going to have your selvages go to waste, and you will probably have a little bit of like 1/8 of an inch at a time going to waste. Alright, so this is 8 pieces of the cutoffs from my background fabric. And I will probably press these open as well, although I could get away with pressing them to one side. Alright, but I'm going to do the same thing here. I only have 3 of these focus fabric strips. And they're not all the same length, but they don't have to be. So I'm going to stitch 2 of them together, and then I will come back and grab the third one. Alright, so there's one. And we are going to add this other one, and we're going to add it to the long side where I already have, longer fabric. And one thing I'm going to do is I am going to line up as close as possible, but I haven't trimmed these edges, so I don't know how straight they are. We're going to line it up with the edge that I've started at, so the extra down here, we're not going to worry about that. That will go to another round. So we will get that in another round. And I'm just debating. Yeah, I will go ahead and sew the entire length of this, so it'll already be stitched together. I was hearing earlier this morning that we're going to get snow later this week. You guys, I was not expecting more snow. It is May. I was not expecting snow. I should have expected snow. It is Wyoming. But my husband says it's in the forecast, and I'll let him, believe that, his forecast is right. So we're going to go with his forecast. Charlotte has joined the chat. She says, hi, Tammy and everyone. Hi, Charlotte. Glad you are here today. Thank you very, very much for joining me on a Saturday. And it is not my normal Saturday thing, especially not to be on Saturday afternoon. I try to do Saturday mornings when I do Saturdays. Charlotte says, ew, snow. I do not disagree right now. Now, I do love snow, but I am at the point that I am ready for spring and summer in that warm weather. I mean, I've already worn shorts once or twice, and I kind of want to wear them for a little bit longer before we hit snow again. I was expecting a couple of months at least. So we'll see if my husband was right or not. We will let the weather determine whether he won the lottery and was right. Beverly says no snow. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do not wish for it right now. I was ready for the warm weather. I mean, it's 64 degrees outside right now. And I mean, I live at the base of a mountain, so I'm not surprised that the weather could change that quickly, but I was not expecting more snow. I will say it that way. I was not expecting it. Alright, so this is a little strip set that I put together. These are my focus fabrics, this fabric, and then 2 other fabrics. Okay, so that's so far what we've got together. Oh, cross fingers that this is last for a while. Yeah, I kind of hope it is. I'm ready for that warm weather. I'm ready to get some vitamin D, and be able to be outside in the sunshine. And I don't tan, I burn, but I still enjoy getting out there in it, even if I am gonna burn. I mean, I put sunscreen on, and sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. Down south, I could be out in the sun and I would burn, and then it would turn to a tan. Here, I burn and it just stays a burn. It doesn't change to a tan, and I don't know why. Maybe my body doesn't like the high altitude tanning. I don't know. So we will see. I'm not trying to tan necessarily, but I want to get out in the sunshine. I want to be able to enjoy some warm weather and not have to wear 4 layers. We're kind of in the phase where you dress in 5 layers in the morning and you are down to the bottom layers in the afternoon, and then you're putting the layers back on by the next morning. Yeah, we're kind of at that phase. Alright, so here's this piece right here. Alright, so I've got those, but I'm going to take and start putting all of these much longer strips together as well. Okay? So I'm not ready to cut that yet. These will come in when we get closer down. Get a little bit of caffeine, you guys. Charlotte says, me too. So I take reflected sunlight from the shade. I can understand doing that, but it's not something I'm used to doing. So we will see how I handle it. That's what we're going to go with, is we're going to see how I handle it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these together in pairs, just because that makes this job a lot faster. If you want to take your time and sew these, you definitely can. But I want to be able to show you what I've done, and this is the faster way to do this. Now, when you are sewing these strips like this, these are about 18 or a little bit longer inch long strips. You want to make sure, if you can use a walking foot, use a walking foot on your machine. If you do not have a walking foot, just make sure to take your time and be patient with your machine. Do not force your fabric, and do not pull your fabric as you are sewing them. These strips are long enough that if you wanted to push or pull your fabric, you could distort your lines. And I mean, 18 inches isn't that bad, but you really don't want to end up with wavy stitches. So make sure that you are using your walking foot. I have dual feet on my machine, so that's my walking foot. And just don't push or pull your fabric through the machine. Let your machine do what your machine was designed to do, which is feed the fabric. Alright, so I ran out of that top strip. I'm just going to sew right off the end of the other strip. I'm not even going to angle it or do anything fancy. And just grab the next set. And you can pair these however you want. If you have, some darks and some lights, you can mix and match, going one dark, one light. You can put all the darks together, all the lights together. Whichever way you want to do it, it will work. You do not have to be super, careful about which order you put them together in. You are just looking to get them put together. And, if you choose a different order than I have, that is perfectly fine. Do not ever feel like you have to do it the exact same way that I'm doing it. As far as color orientation or anything like that. I am literally just pulling whatever suits my fancy and feeding that through. So once this project is done, once this part is done, then I will be able to piece this section into the back of the quilt, and you guys will see what this is going to make here in a little bit. But you'll be able to piece this into the back of the quilt, and you will not have leftover pieces anywhere. This will also make a really good label, depending on your fabric colors. You could make this a label. You could make this, you can put it down near the bottom corner where you would normally put your label. You can center it in the back. You could use this as a pillow block as well. So what we're going to do here, once these are all sewn together, once you see what it is, you can make a decision on if that's what you'd like to do with your leftovers. But this is definitely how I'm going to use mine. They are going to go into a section on the back of the quilt. So there will not be a single piece of any of these fat quarters left in my studio once this is done. I do have, I think, a grand total of 2 of these fat quarters, the 2 of the the Focus Fabric fat quarters, I had more than one fat quarter of, and those will be the only leftovers that I will have, is my extra fat quarters. So you will need extra fabric for your backing. The 12 fat quarters does not provide enough for the backing, but you know, it is what it is. All right, now I could leave that on the machine and grab the other strips, but I don't want to. So these are all the put together strips. And I'm going to move these out of the way. That way I'm not accidentally knocking them off the machine, or knocking them off the table rather. Yeah, we're not doing that today. All right, so now I've got a wide strip and a narrow strip. So the only difference that I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a couple of very wide strips to pair this with. Okay, and you don't have to do it that way, but that's my preference for doing that. I want to make sure that I am sandwiching some of those narrower strips in. Now if you want, you can press between sews. You know what, I think I am going to. So you can press, I'll bring you guys over so you guys can see me a little bit better while I'm doing this. You can press all of these strips open, and that's what I'm going to do. You've already done all the work of pressing so many seams open on the top, the quilt top, on all those half square triangles, and then you've done all the work of rotating and spinning those seams when you joined your chisels together. So why wouldn't you take a few extra steps now and press your seams open so that your strips are going to lay flat. And you can also see at this point, if your strips are not laying flat, you can also starch them. So in the process of spinning my seams, when I joined my chisels together, I did go in and press those seams, and I pressed them with starch just to make sure that they laid completely flat, and I wasn't going to be borrowing problems later. So we will be doing this with the background strips as well. And you may have a different number of strips available once you are done, you know, with all your cutting. You may have different strips available than what I have. That is entirely up to what fat quarters you have available to you and what sizes those fat quarters are. Now I measured some fat quarters that I just got from a local quilt shop, and they were 18 by 21. So that would affect, they were actually a little over 18. They were like 18 and a quarter or 18 and a half or something like that. It just depends on which fat quarter I was measuring. So your fat quarter may be a little bit differently sized, and you may have, you know, different scrap off of it. As long as it is big enough that you are comfortable sewing with it, then go ahead and use it. If it is, you know, the smallest strip I've ever sewn with is a 3/4 of an inch strip. And then when you sew the 1/4 inch on either side, you end up with a 1/4 of an inch strip. And I've done that for sashing. So I did an entire quilt, and that was sashing that I added, was 1/4 inch wide finished sashing. And those strips were cut 3/4 of an inch wide. When you do get to strips that small, it is easy to stretch them. So you do have to be careful to not stretch them. Not if you want them to lay flat. That is the biggest challenge of working with fabric that small, especially considering we're talking about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, because you do not want to end up with nothing left over. All right, let me grab one of the small strips. There's one of the small ones. All right, let me get some of these out of my way, and I'm going to put it You guys can't see. Let me grab you guys back over. So I'm going to put it so it lines up here, just so that that small strip is buried in the middle and I don't have to worry about losing any of it. Because we will be cutting this down, so these are not going to stay this length forever. So we're going to cut them down because we're basically making our own fabric at this point. So does anybody have any guesses? If you are in the chat, if you are live in the chat, do you have any guesses about what we're going to do with these strips? Because I look forward to hearing and seeing if anybody has any ideas. I think I had a medical procedure done yesterday as well, which did not help with the emergency that we ended up having last night with the family. And I think the medical procedure that I had done has left me with a stuffy nose. And it's really odd because they were nowhere near my face. So I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the weather changing or if it's the medical procedure or whatever. I did feel kind of weird yesterday. So I definitely could not have focused on a phone and the live yesterday. So, alright. That is, so what this step is doing is this is taking 2 strips and turning it into turning it into 4. And here's our last 2 that I've got. And I'm going to sandwich the bright fabric in amongst the others. That's what I'm going for. And it's not that you have to do it that way, but a lot of my fabrics are kind of dark and have a lot of similar colors in them. So sandwiching a light in gives you a little bit of a place for your eye to rest and to look that visual interest. Alright. And because I do have that other camera set up today, we are going to try to use it to see if you guys can see the cutting table. So we are going to test run it and see if we get lucky. And see if you guys can see it and are able to watch it. Alright, so I'm just going to do the same thing I did a minute ago. We're going to press this over. And I'm going to scoot the camera over so you guys can see me a little bit better. And that way I'm not off frame. I hate when you guys can't see me because I feel like then, you know, you're just listening to me ramble. And I am good at rambling. I was watching Laura Lynn earlier. She's working on her cow, and that is just the absolute most adorable cow. It's an Art East pattern she's been working on, and it's a Highland cow. And it is just, it's so adorable. But I'm listening to her, and I've noticed that she sings not just, you know, at key moments or whatever. If anything triggers a song thought in her brain, I think, she sings it. And she comes up with her own words. And I cannot think fast enough on my feet to do that. But I love that she does that. Because I'm almost singing right along with her. You guys don't want to hear me sing. But I'm singing right along with Laura Lynn. She cracks me up. She caught me over at Russ's channel this morning. I was just kind of lurking and hanging out and watching what he was up to. And she caught me over there and she said, "Oh, this is where all the cool kids are." I said, "Oh, Laura Lynn, you called me a cool kid. Thank you." So I'm officially a cool kid according to Laura Lynn. Let's see. Charlotte says, "I'm guessing you're going to place a strip either widthwise or lengthwise on your quilt back." Okay. Michelle said she called me out today for lurking. Yes. Oh, I love Laura Lynn. She's got such a sweetheart of a personality. But yeah, she will call you out for lurking. She'll call you out for all kinds of things. Oh, that's funny. All right. So, what we're going to do is we are going to also put them together like this. So, we're going to put all of these strips together. So, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12 strips. And I am going to, I want to make sure that the widest strips are on the outside. But I don't want... That should work. That looks pleasing to me from my point of view. Alright, so this is what we're going to go with. And so I've got 2 seams left to sew. And so as I'm sewing this together, this end, if you see, has a lot of hangover on the bottom, but then have a lot of hangover on the top. So this other end is the end that I sewed on that one, but the end down here is the end I sewed on the bottom one. So I'm going to line up so I'm getting as much of the fabric in the frame, if you will. That way we can see it. Alright. Now I think my background strips are going to be fairly easy, but they're all the same color. If you did a scrappy background, then your strips are going to look different. Mine are all the same. It's all the same fabric. It's nothing different. But we're going to do the same thing with all the background strips. So once I get done putting this together, we'll swap over and we'll start on the background strips. And then you guys get to see what my idea is. So, and let's see, Charlotte was saying that place the strip either widthwise or lengthwise on your quilt bag. Okay. All right, I will keep that in mind. I'm not telling if you're right or not. I am not giving away hints. I am not in the market for giving away hints. I know there's somebody in the chat that knows that I am great at keeping secrets. It's just whether or not they pipe up. Oh, I am good at keeping secrets, you guys. Alright, so these are not going to line up completely, but that's okay. They'll be good enough. I will go ahead and move it down this way, and we will figure it out. Because I've got one strip that's shorter than the rest. And it's kind of, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But this is the same kind of thing we're going to do. So, Michelle, do I get to call you out for lurking? Maybe I ought to start doing what Laura Lynn's doing and call people out for lurking. I know somebody else in the chat is lurking. She told me she would be. I don't mind you guys lurking. It's a lazy Saturday, kind of. I've got a party that's going on this evening that I'm helping host. So I originally did not plan to do a live and host a party on the same day. That was not in my original plans. I promise you that. But yet, here we are. Right? Alright, so I'm going to press these open. And this piece will be done for the moment. Until you guys see what I'm going to do. Alright, I'm gonna have to add water to my iron, you guys. It is run out. Not running out, it is run out. It is completely out. My iron drinks. I almost wish that I had, like, you know, when you've got one of those air conditioning units, or I don't know, you know, your washing machine. When your washing machine goes to drain, there's a drain right there connected to your washing machine. Same thing with your dishwasher. There's a drain right there. I really wish that there was a tap right here, right next to my iron, so I could just, turn it on and fill up my iron and not have to do bottles or whatever to carry the water back and forth or take my iron to the sink or all of that. Donnell has joined the chat, ladies and women, and ladies and gents. And Katie is here. So we got Donnell and Katie. Hi to both of you. Thank you for joining the chat today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, please, Katie. She's right, you guys. She says, please hit that thumbs up button. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it. I forget about that thumbs up button. I mean, seriously, you guys, if you want to hit the thumbs down, I'm good with that. Just tell YouTube that you're watching the content by hitting that button. Or hitting a button. We'll do it that way. We'll hit a button. Hit the button for me. And Katie and Donnell, if you guys need or want, you are welcome to do !selfie in my chat. So, drop your link in the chat as well. We are taking the scraps today from the cut and chiseled quilt, and we are going to put them together to go onto the back of our quilt. So when we do the backing for it, I do not have the fabric ready to do the whole backing today. So you guys will not see that today. It's not going to happen. But we're getting there. Alright, so this is my strip panel from the scraps from my focus fabrics. So I'm going to do the same thing with my background strips now. Alright. So we're going to piece them together in sets of 2, and because these are all the same fabric, there's not like any variation or whatever, I do not have to worry about what order they go in. I just have to put them together. And we are going to piece these open as well, or press them open, because we want this to lay just as flat as that other piece. So we want to get as much use out of all of this as we can. Alright. So there's one, and I am speed sewing a little bit, so if the machine is too loud, you guys please let me know. Put something in the comments, put something in the if you're watching the replay and it's too loud, please drop in a note to let me know that it's too loud. I want to be able to adjust that if it is, but I don't know if nobody tells me, because I can't hear what you guys are hearing, not until I play the whole replay, and I'm just barely catching up with people's lives, other people's lives. So catching up with my own is kind of hard to do. I need to be doing it, but I haven't been doing it because I haven't had energy to do it. Alright, Donnell saying, hey Michelle, long time no see. And Michelle saying, hi Donnell, I know, right? You guys are so funny. You guys are funny. So Donnell, I did not manage to catch your live earlier. I'll have to catch your replay. But I heard you are going live tomorrow morning too. Joy T says not too loud. Awesome. Thank you, Joy T. If you guys have an issue with my machine, now you can blame Joy T because she's already said that my machine is okay. It's not too loud. I'm not throwing you under the bus, I promise. If you guys seriously, if the machine is too loud at any time, feel free to contradict Joy T and tell me. Oh, I feel like I'm congested, you guys. I feel like my sinuses have decided that they don't like me, but there's no reason why I should be like that today. So, we will see, we shall see. So, for this party tonight, I had to make, I make a couple of appetizers, and my husband makes this one dessert that everybody asks for. So he's in the process of making that. Donnell says, not too loud at all. I can hear you loud and clear over the machine. Yay! Thank you. That's good to know. That's very good to know. So he's making his dessert right now. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it before, but he makes white chocolate bread pudding. That is his dessert that he makes. And I do not know if I'm smelling the white chocolate bread pudding that he's making or what. But he serves it with this white chocolate sauce and all of that. So in case you guys needed your food talk today, there's your food talk. There will be dessert tonight at my party that I'm going to. So I am excited about it. I usually leave the white chocolate bread pudding for everybody else to eat, because if I really wanted it that badly, I'd get it myself. I think some people turn on a sound filter, but not sure. They probably do, and I don't know if my software, Donnell, he does not give out that recipe for anything. Charlotte says, sounds delish. So, the first Christmas that he and I were dating, we met online in October, met in person in November, and that following New Year's was my family's Christmas. My mom's side of the family does Christmas around New Year's. And so we did Christmas at my parents' house, or well, at my grandmother's house. And him being new to the family, thought, well, I need to impress everybody. So he makes his white chocolate bread pudding. And he knew exactly what he was doing. Donnell says, well, then I need a delivery order. Nope, he won't do it. He won't even give the recipe to his daughter either. But we, so he made the white chocolate bread pudding, and we took it over to my grandmother's house. He made it at my mom and dad's house. And then we took it over to my grandmother's house, and my mom and my grandmother were fighting over who got to keep the leftovers. And there was only leftovers because he makes so much of it when he makes it. But there was not really any leftovers to be had. Alright, so I've got them in sets of 2. I'm going to go ahead and press these first. So bring you guys back over so you guys can see me better. And move my big strip set out of the way. That way you guys can see it and admire the fabrics a little bit longer. While my camera refocuses, I think. Yeah, I mean, he has never... My husband and I have been married 7 years, and he has still not given my mom the recipe. And my mom and dad live across the country from us now. So, he guards that recipe with his life. I do not know how to make it. I'm not going to offer to make it. That is all him. I let it be his thing. So, yeah, no. But, Donnell, if you were to come out here and visit, I'm sure you could ask him and he would make it. But you'd have to come out to Wyoming to visit. Or we'd have to be in Michigan visiting you. That would be the challenge is, you'd have to be here when he's home, or we'd have to be there where you are. I don't even know I know some of the ingredients only because I've had to, go shopping with him. But I don't even know what he does and what order. Like, none of that. That is not... I know a lot of his recipes. That is not one of them that I know. That is it's his thing. What's really funny is he'll get into a kick, and he's making it for this party, and he will get into a kick when he makes one batch. If there's any other parties coming up, he makes a batch for those other parties. Charlotte says I make New Orleans bread pudding with whiskey sauce. Wicked good stuff. Yes. See, I would love that too. And I personally like raisins and the whiskey sauce. Now, don't get me wrong. His white chocolate bread pudding is really good, and it is delicious. But I'm not a big sugar person. So, I mean, you guys see me drink Dr. Pepper, and I've got Gobstoppers. But, like, that's about it for my sugar content. Like, I eat fruit and such. Beverly says, Charlotte, that sounds delicious. I agree, Beverly. I wholeheartedly agree. So, Charlotte, when are you coming to Wyoming? You need to come make me the New Orleans bread pudding. My husband actually lived in New Orleans for a while. He was in New Orleans, or he was stationed in New Orleans when Katrina hit. So he loves some of the New Orleans stuff. I love others. Charlotte says, it is. I put raisins in my bread pudding. See, I would love you. I would love you long time. I've helped him make French bread for his bread pudding. But, like, that's the extent of my help in the kitchen for his bread pudding. I can make Jell-O dessert things. I can make... Charlotte says it's easy to make. Oh, hi, Melissa. Welcome. She says hello. Glad you are here, Melissa. Thank you for joining the chat. We are talking about bread pudding because my husband is making his famous white chocolate bread pudding right now. I know I smell some of it. I know that much. The rest of it, I don't know. I'm going to need a nutritious dinner before I go to the party where there's all these desserts. All right. So, yeah, so he can do the bread pudding and things like that. I do cookies. I've got a couple of different cookie recipes that I'm kind of famous for. I haven't made any of them in a really long time because I don't have a lot of people to feed them to. And I don't like making cookies and things that if they're not going to get eaten. So I have not made any of my famous cookie recipes in a while. But when I make chocolate chip cookies, the recipe that I use is apparently really famous because my husband's friends all go, well, when is your wife going to make the chocolate chip cookies again? So apparently I'm well known. What's my favorite cookie? Probably sugar cookies. I don't like chocolate that much. I'm not a huge chocolate fan. I will almost always eat a sugar cookie. I will definitely eat Oreos. I love like the golden Oreos though. I'll eat regular Oreos, but I like the golden ones. There's Chloe. She says hello all and Tammy. Hello Chloe. Glad you are here. Thank you for joining the chat. So my second favorite, like if I go to Subway, what I get is the white chocolate macadamia nut cookies. That is my cookie. And I'm going to shock everybody. I do not eat cheesecake. It is not a flavor that I like. So like Subway's like raspberry cheesecake or whatever, that is just, they don't appeal to me at all. I can make a mean cheesecake. I make a really, really good cheesecake. My husband and daughter fought over my cheesecake. And I can make it, but I don't eat it. Let's see, what else? Okay, so my favorite dessert of all time is probably a pavlova. And if you've never heard of a pavlova, it is kind of a meringue shell. And it's frequently topped, and the way I like it topped the best, is with berries and whipped cream. And because I can't eat a whole lot at one time, and I'm usually not making it for a huge party, I will make individuals. So I make a lot of little bitty pavlovas. They don't taste as good as the big pavlova does, because I like when it cracks and looks a little rustic. I like that. But I love a good pavlova. Charlotte says my favorite to make is oatmeal butterscotch. Ooh, I would probably try those. Oatmeal isn't my absolute favorite cookie, but I will eat it. And butterscotch can get me. I like some good butterscotch. Chloe says, ooh, cheesecake, yum. Yes. See, I can make it. I just don't eat it. It is the oddest thing. And my first mother-in-law, I've been married a couple times, guys. My first mother-in-law also made cheesecake, but did not eat it either. So I don't know if I joined her or, why, but yeah, I'm not a huge cheesecake person. Chloe says my favorite dessert is tiramisu. I would like to make tiramisu, but I have to have enough people here that will eat it. I wouldn't eat tiramisu. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. I just don't like the flavors. But I would love to make it. I am the person that likes to make the things, even if I don't eat them. So I made, I came across a dessert, and it was kind of like a trifle, and it had Whoppers, the malted milk ball candies, on the outside as decoration, and it was kind of that flavor. It was that malted chocolate flavor, and I made it mainly because my sister-in-law likes that stuff, and I mean, she loved it, but I'm not a fan. It's not my thing. All right, so let's see if Nightbot likes us, Katie. There we go. Nightbot does like us. Yay! Gotta be happy. So you guys, there is a link to Katie's channel if you have not checked out Katie from Greenland Quilter. She has just dropped her link into the chat for you guys. Katie, you have a live coming up today. Is that correct? And can you convert it to mountain time for me? Because I can't do math today. I am not mathing. I got to math in a little bit once I get done with this. But I cannot math right now. Mathing is not my option at the moment. And time zone, yeah, I can't do time zones either. Can't do them. I would love to, but I can't. It is not the day for it today. All right. One last seam that I'm pressing open. And then we're going to get these 3 sections sewn together. And then we're going to go over the cutting table. Melissa says, my son made an amazing tiramisu. I miss it. Aww. I can imagine. I mean, my mom misses my husband's white chocolate bread pudding, so I can understand. Let's see. Donnell, if Nightbot doesn't like you, do it one more time for us. Let's see. Michelle says, I'm working on getting everything set up for me to make videos again. Yay, Michelle! Yay! I would love to have you come interview with me. Would you like to come interview with me? Because I can't do it this month, but I could do it, in June. If you've got dates in June, I would love to have you. Just saying. If you do want to do that, Michelle, send me an email. You can do exclamation email, or actually let me grab it. Let's see. There we go. And Beverly says she just subscribed to your channel, Michelle. Oh, Donnell, I hope we didn't overwhelm Nightbot again. Nightbot just does not... There we go. Nightbot got you. Yay! Alright, so Donnell's channel is also in the chat. Michelle's channel is also in the chat as well, you guys. Chloe says it's raining here. We just bought our veggie plants and some flowers. I jumped the gun, you guys. Everybody here has told me you wait until after Memorial Day to plant your plants. I didn't. and we had some bad wind the last couple of days. So the few seedlings that I have that are out on the, yay, you do want to do it? Yes. Send me an email, drop me an email, and I will get you on the schedule for June. I want to have you on here on June so we can talk about your channel, see what's going on. So what was I going to say? Oh, so that windstorm destroyed some of my plants. I think the pigeons also got to one of my sunflower plants. So I had some sunflowers I was trying to grow, and the first plant missing was a sunflower, and nothing else was disturbed except the leaves on the sunflower plant. So I think the pigeons, because we have a lot of pigeons around here, and being a third floor balcony, we are prime target for them. So yeah, one of my sunflowers went missing, and then the wind actually blew a couple of plants out of the soil. I've never seen that happen before. But being third floor, again, we get higher winds than ground floor would, and we have almost no shelter. So some of my plants may not survive. All right, so this piece is visibly a lot bigger than this piece. I had a lot extra on the background than what I do on the focus. And I didn't realize I didn't bring you guys over. I'm sorry. I didn't bring you guys down so you could see the machine. But we'll make it through. Well, we will make it. And I am going to starch this as well because I want it to lay flat. So that way I'm not fighting with it. Alright. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't burn my bottle. My bottle's sitting on here with my iron. And I've done crazier things than that before, so it is what it is. And no, I'm not letting it dry. This is Stay Flow starch that I've mixed up. So it's not best press. It's that traditional stuff. I know a lot of people don't like it because it flakes. To me, if it flakes, then that means that I'm doing my job. I've always grown up that way. And I don't want it to flake a whole lot, but it does flake a little bit. If I let it sit for a minute, it would starch better. But I'm not going to do that today. We are not in the sitting and waiting today. There is no sitting and waiting and quilting today. You guys have my permission. There's no sitting and waiting. Alright, so I'm going to bring you guys over. I'm going to put you guys on the cutting table camera here in just a second. I'm going to adjust it so that way I don't make you guys sick adjusting it after the fact. And we are going to see how well this camera will hold up today. So I've already had a few visual disturbances with it. So we are just going to cross our fingers and hope that this is going to work. All right. Beverly says that she loves Stay Flow. Yeah, I do too. I used Best Press for a while, but now I am thoroughly back to Stay Flow. Donnell says, gotta run, chat later. No worries, Donnell. Thank you for hanging out as long as you did. All right, so you guys are seeing my cutting table, and I apologize. I see the little flickers on the camera screen, and I am so sorry. There's nothing I can do about that. All right, so what we are going to do, everybody saying bye to Donnell. If you guys are having trouble hearing me because I'm too far away from the microphone, please speak up in the chat. Let me know. I don't want you guys to not be able to hear me. All right, I'm going to make one adjustment if I can. Nope, I can't. Okay. So sorry about that. I can't make the adjustment I was going to try to make. All right, and I'm going to do a different adjustment. So camera is moving, guys. I'm so sorry. Camera is moving. All right, so I just want to be able to see how far I can see with this. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure and see what we have. All right, this is 22 inches long, and at the longest, I've got about 17 inches wide. So what that means is that we almost have a full fat quarter, just in scraps. And Mona has joined the chat. Hi Mona, glad you are here. Thank you for joining the chat today. I appreciate it. All right, so first thing that we are going to do, let me make sure I'm getting you guys in the camera, is we are going to trim up this raw edge. And I'm going to use, because I cut all my strips level, I'm going to use my ruler to line this up. So it is not laying flat on, or it's not laying level on my mat, but it is laying level on my ruler. All right, so we do have a little bit of scrap. If you want to take these pieces apart, for example, you can, and reuse the smaller pieces. But a lot of this is going to be smaller that you can't reuse. Okay? So now this time that I've got a level piece, I am going to line it up on the lines on my mat. And so I am at 16 3/4. So we will make that work. We will make it work, you guys. All right. So I don't know how many of you remember the cutting instructions that we did at the beginning of the quilt. And I apologize, I bumped the mat, or bumped the camera. Let's see, everybody's just saying hi to everybody. All right, so we almost have a fat quarter. So we're gonna cut it as though we are making another block, okay? So our 18-inch side is what we're going to have going up and down, okay? Then our 22-inch is where we get as much of our length as we can. So our first cut, we're going to cut 6 inches. And I'm actually going to cut, because I don't have a full 18, I'm going to go ahead and cut 5 7/8. And that is going to be my first cut. Now, if you have a full 18 inches, go ahead and cut 6 inches. All right, so this strip has 3 strips in it. And we're going to move it over so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so we're going to cut another 5 7/8 inch strip. All right, there's my lines up. Everything's lined up on the ruler. All right, now we are going to cut a 3.5 inch strip. And if you guys were watching the first video, do you have an idea what we're doing? Do you have an idea? All right, and this strip is also going to be 3.5. All right. And again, I'm going to have a little bit of extra, but I'm not going to worry about that. That will go into my scrap bin at this point. That will be all the extra I'll end up with, or most of all the extra I'll end up with at the end of this quilt. All right, so here's my 2 5 7/8 inch strips. And if you were able to cut these 6 inches, you'll have 6 inch strips. If you weren't and you needed to cut it down, then you'll have, you know, whatever you managed to cut this down to. All right, so I'm going to cut these into 5 7/8 inch squares. So there's one cut. And here is 2, and we're going to see if we can get 3. That is our goal. We're going to see if we can get 3. All right, I'm not going to get 3. So, here's what we're going to do. Because I do have this scrap left over, we will go to the machine here in just a minute. We will sew these together, and I will make 5 7/8 inch. Okay? We will make it large enough. Alright, so we got 4 total half square triangle squares prepped. And then we are going to do the same thing that we did before with our 3.5 inch strips. We're going to cut these at 5.5 inches long. Alright. So I'm going to use the lines on my ruler. And I've got both of my strip sets stacked on top of each other. And so there's 1. And here is 2. Alright, we should get 3. And we just barely get 3, you guys. Alright. So, literally, this is all I'm coming up with is scrap. Alright. So we've got our rectangles to go with our half square triangle squares. And we're going to go ahead and take our much larger than needed other strip. And I'm actually going to fold this in half. Actually, I'm not. Never mind. I apologize. Not going to do that. Alright, so this is as squared up as it's going to get, and that's fine. I'm going to, my focus fabric squares were 5 7/8. So I'm going to do the same thing with my background fabric strip sets. Okay? So we're doing 1 that's 5 7/8. And we are doing 2 that's 5 7/8. Just finding the markings on my ruler, you guys. Alright. And then these are the 3.5 inch strips. So we're going to have those available to us as well. Alright, so if your fabric is significantly larger than a fat quarter when you put all your scraps together, you can cut extra pieces out and make something together with it. Okay? So you remember all of these smaller pieces, and I was putting some of those together earlier? You can do that same process. Just put them together until you are making a larger piece of fabric with them, and then you're going to cut it to make those same strip sets and those same pieces. Alright, so I'm going to line these up together, and I didn't square up the edges, so we'll square those up here in just a second. We are just going to line it up using the lines on my mat. That way I know about where I can cut. Alright, so we are going to cut 3.5. And we're going to work, or sorry, 5.5. I am so sorry. I was about to cut it wrong. Alright, so these are 3.5 inch wide strips. And we're cutting 5.5 inch long pieces. And let me go ahead and square that up while I'm thinking about it. That way I don't convert measurements again here in just a minute, because I don't want to do that. That would not come out the size that we're looking to have. So we're going to cut 5.5. And we're going to cut one more 5.5. Alright. There we go. Alright, so again, I've got just a little bit of extra. If I wanted to put that with something and put it together, I can do that as well. Alright, so I've got my rectangles, and they're out of the way at the moment. And now we're going to cut our squares that if you can get 6 inches, go for 6. I know I can't get 6 inches out of this background fabric. I cut it too small to be able to do that. So I'm cutting 5 7/8. So that is all my fault. It is all my bad. I did not mean to do that, but I did it, so we're working with it. Alright. So I'm just lining up so I can get 5 7/8. And I'm going to square this one, and we're going to do the same thing the whole way down. So we're going to get 3 sets of that as well. So what we're going to do is we are going to recreate those chisels that we're using on the front, and we're going to put them together in a line for the back. Okay, so that is what we are going to do, but this also means that you are not wasting any fabric, and you are coming out with a gorgeous quilt with a perfect little accent on the back. All right, so there's my squares. Here's the 4 that I've got from my focus fabric. And here's my rectangles of my focus and my background. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and bring you guys over. All right. Let's see. All right. Chloe says, I don't think I will get a fat quarter from the scraps I have, and that is perfectly fine. You do not have to get a full fat quarter. I'm going to show you what you need to get in order to make what you want to make. Okay. There's a lot of my, apologize. Thank you. There's a lot of my focus fabric fat quarters that are not going to get a full fat quarter from. So there's no reason to panic if you don't. All right. So I'm going to take this piece here, and this is that long strip that I had that I cut off, and I'm just going to line it up so that I have a little bit to trim on both sides, and I'm going to put this together and then press it and go trim it real quick, so that way you guys can see what we're looking at and what we're trying to achieve. That way, if you haven't been able to follow the whole thing, you're not left out. Because I do not want anybody to feel left out. Alright. There we go. Alright, so this is what I ended up with, sewing that together. So I'm going to press these seams open. And pressing open here, it is going to give you the best chance at being able to utilize all of your fabric. When you press to one side, you are going to create some bulk, and that becomes harder to trim, which means you're less likely to use it. So pressing open gives me that. I'm going to step over to the cutting table real quick. I'm not going to bring you guys. I'm just going to trim these real quick. That way you guys can see exactly what this looks like. And I mean, it's going to look funky, but there is nothing wrong with a funky quilt or a funky quilt block. So don't ever think that, you have to conform to the mold. Your quilt, your choice, you have ultimate options. It is all up to you. Alright, so doing my last trim up to get the strip down, and then we're going to square these up. So I'm going to go 5 7/8 again. That's the size we're looking for. And again, I'm going to have a little bit of extra strips. But that is, again, not all my fat quarters were the same size. And I'm quite sure, unless you bought all of your fat quarters from the same company, not all of yours are going to be the same size either. Alright. Let's see. Chloe says I still have a bunch of cutting. That is not a problem, Chloe. No problem at all. Alright, so this is one of my Frankenstein squares. Okay? And here is the other one. Okay. So from this one fat quarter, the scrap fat quarter, you have a total of 6 rectangles of your focus, and you have a total of 6 rectangles of your background. You have a total of 6 squares of your focus and 6 squares of your background. Okay? That makes a total of 6 chisels. Okay? So you need a square each and a rectangle each per chisel. Okay? So if you can get a 6-inch square and a 3.5 by 5.5 inch rectangle out of your focus fabric, and the same thing out of your background fabric, then you have a chisel. You have one single chisel. Okay? So you can put one chisel on the back of your quilts. Your chisel, your finished chisel size is 15 3/4 of an inch, or 15 7/8 of an inch by 5 inches. That's finished size. Okay? If you can get 4 across, then you are basically adding 1 row all the way across. 4 is all you would absolutely need to go just straight across, divides that backing in half, and you've got extra. With getting 6, which is what 2 fat quarters gives you, let me do the math real quick because I am here and can do it. I'm going to have 95 inches, 95 1/4 inches of chisel. Okay? So I could run my chisel from the top of my quilt all the way to the bottom. And you can put them in any layout that you want. So I could put 3 and then 3, and then put extra fabric on the sides, and then top and bottom put extra fabric. However you want to do it. But this is why I said don't throw out your leftovers. Any little bit of leftovers that you've got, you can use. So this was like 1 1/4 inch strip. This fabric right here. But it's long enough that it's there. You can see it. Okay? So you're going to do the same thing to all of this that you did to make all of your other chisels. I do recommend drawing your lines on the back of your background. Don't draw them on the back of your focus fabrics. At least not in my case, because my focus fabrics are very, very light, or my background fabrics are very light. My focus fabric is very dark, and I would have to draw basically with a black marker in order to get mine. Now, I do have my diagonal seam tape on my machine bed. I'm going to use that versus drawing lines today, because I want to be able to get one of these done and show you what it's going to look like if you only can get 1 square of each and 1 rectangle of each. Okay? So we're going to do just the 1 chisel. So this is why I said just make sure that you line up your extras. You don't need to necessarily have them a specific size, but just make sure that the sides of them are equal, because that's going to make your job a whole lot easier trying to put them together to use up the last bits. Okay? And so I stitched really, really close together because I am crazy and I do that. Chloe says, cool. Yeah, I mean, this is all you're trying to do, is you are trying to use up your scraps, and this is going to complement your quilt really well. Because again, you're reusing the fabrics that you used in the front to achieve the same kind of look that you were getting on the back of your quilt. Now, with pressing these strips open, and this is another reason why I recommended pressing them open, when you press them open, you are going to have a much flatter layout to your quilt. So if these seams were pressed to one side, I would have a bulky seam right here. But I don't, because I pressed all open. So the only time that it's going to be super bulky is when you're pressing back on itself. So that's the positive. Okay. So we're just going to do one chisel. I'm going to do a total of 6 at least. It looks like I have enough scrap left over. I might be able to make a 7th, possibly an 8th chisel that will go on the back of mine. But I didn't want to jump the gun and already have things done. I wanted you guys to see from start to finish exactly how I was putting my stuff together in order to get the look on the back that you guys are going to see. So I will have my back completely done. I'm hoping by Tuesday. I should be able to do by Tuesday. So you guys will get to see it on Tuesday night. And I will take the cut and chiseled quilt off the wall so you guys will see just how long that 90 inches is. So, you know, it will be there. It will be there. You guys will get to see all of it in its glory. And I will also be sharing the pictures of it because I laid it out on our kitchen floor because our kitchen floor has enough room. So I laid it out so you guys can see it literally from top to bottom. On my wall is not big enough for that. The bottom of the quilt, the bottom 2 chisels are on the floor and the top is above the top of my board. So my design wall is not big enough for a 90-inch tall quilt. I already knew it wasn't. I knew it was going to be a challenge, but it is what it is. All right. So let me see if I can zoom out. Let me see if I have my remote. I had my remote. I know I did. Let's see. Oh, found it. It was right in front of my face. Okay. So, because this is the back of the quilt, it doesn't really matter. Now, if I didn't have enough room to do the rectangles, what I might do is just do some triangles. But I do have enough, so I'm going to add my rectangles in. So there's one rectangle, and then because you are piecing this together, however, you can mix and match. Okay? So this would be a completed chisel. And so I've got enough here already cut and ready to do 6. If you have, you know, a lot of extra scraps, you can do how many ever you can make. If not, you know, do what you can make out of it, and you're still using those leftovers. You're getting those leftovers out of the scrap bin and into a quilt, and you're complementing the front of your quilt by putting this on the back. We are going to do the same thing to these chisels that we did to the chisels on the front. You are going to press towards your rectangles, okay? So we're not adding any extra bulk intentionally, but you are going to press towards your rectangles. All right, last seam, you guys, and then this one chisel will be done, and I just have 5 more to make. 5 more guaranteed to make. Then I may have a few more to make, but it just depends on what I feel like making and how much I feel like putting the fabric together to make it. So we will see. Now, one thing I did not do is after you do your half square triangles, you need to trim them to 5.5, and I did not do that. So you will want to trim your half square triangles to 5.5. I should have gone and done that. I didn't do that. I can always take this one back apart and fix it. But I'm not going to do that right this second. We are not going to go that extra step right this second. If I need to take it apart, I will take it apart. I am not ashamed. I will use Jackie. I will use her. All right. All right, you guys. Let me bring the other camera over. That way you guys are actually seeing this. Okay. All right. So you're going to take your scraps and you are going to cut them. You're going to sew them together and then you're going to cut them apart to make chisels for the back of your quilt. Okay? That is what you need to do with your scraps. And again, you only have to get one square of each. So one square of your focus, one square of your background, one rectangle of your focus, one rectangle of your background, and you have completed a chisel. Okay? So each square of your focus, you just need to have a square of your background to match it. Chloe says, cool, and I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I am going to get off of here because I still have that party I've got to get ready for. Again, this was not my original plan to do it on Saturday because I knew I had other plans. But, of course, life dictates some of what we do without our consent. But I will try to have that PDF link up within the hour so you guys will have access to that. So check back in the description box below this video. Check back in the description box below the other 3 videos as part of this series. So all 4 videos will have a link to the PDF. That way you guys have your cheat sheet in front of you. You know what sizes to cut. Everything is going to be written to go along with the video series. So it's not going to be written as a standalone. It is designed to be going with the video series. But it will be available for download. So thank you guys for joining me today. I appreciate it. Have a great and happy Saturday afternoon. I will see you guys on Tuesday. We'll do show and tell, and you guys will get to see what I've done. And we'll discuss the last Tuesday of the month as well. So I've got a couple of updates about that. So I don't know if we're going to have it, but I'll go over that beforehand. So I want you guys to have a great afternoon.